Welcome to this session where we'll be continuing our discussion on the economic systems. If you would recall, in the last discussion that we had, the last video lecture that we had discussed the two diametrically opposite kind of economic systems that are there. The one was the centrally planned, or the command and control, or the communist kind of economic system. We also understood that many a times these kind of economic systems are said to be leftist economic systems, and then the other type, which was the exact antithesis of the communist economic system, was the free market economy or the capitalist economic system, which are also at times termed as the rightist kind of economic systems. Now this is a picture where you can see the same thing. On the extreme left, you see the pure planned economy or the command and control economy. You see in the middle of the arrow, the left arrow, you would find the term communism also. So we know that these kind of economies are called the communist economies. On the other hand, on the right, we have pure free market economy, the capitalist economic system, where there is pure competition, right? However, I yesterday also discussed this particular aspect, that it is very, very difficult. In fact, you would not be able to find a pure centrally planned economy or a pure free market economy even in today's scenario. For example, even if you look at the countries like North Korea, they are not 100% pure planned economies. You can have a look at North Korea. It has been shown on the left half of the continuum on which we are showing the two diametrically opposite economic systems. The one on the left is pure planned economy, the one on the right is pure free market, and then there is a continuum which joins the two extremes, and you find that North Korea is situated towards the left. It is situated in the left half of this continuum. However, even North Korea is not a purely communist economy, because no matter, in communist economy, you would remember that the government controls, or the central authority controls, the production, consumption and distribution of all the activities, but it's just not possible in any economy. For example, even if the government is very authoritative and they want to control every single thing, even then they would not be able to probably control how much vegetables you are growing in your kitchen garden, or for example, how many cows you have kept and how much milk you are selling to others. It is just not possible for the government to control the production and distribution or consumption of every single item in the economy, and that is why you generally would never be able to find 100% pure planned economy. Likewise is the case for a pure free market economy. In pure free market economy, it is expected of the government to remain aloof from the business, to not get into any business, and let the private entrepreneur set up business. You remember that we had yesterday talked about that dictum, which is very popular in the pure free market economies, that the government has no business to be in business. Government should not be doing any business. They should only regulate the business world. They should not be themselves doing any business. However, in countries which are considered to be capitalist economies, even there you find that the government still is active in some sectors of the economy. For example, if you look at United States of America, which is towards the right half of the continuum that is shown here on your screen, even though it is considered to be a capitalist economy, even then you would find that many a times government does set up its own businesses. For example, when in 2009 there was these economic crises which engulfed United States of America and many other parts of the world, and some of the banks and financial institutions there in America, they started facing a lot of problems. The government at that point of time came forward there. They stepped forward and they took shares in these banks and financial institutions, and in return they provided them funds so that they can carry out their business. So in a way, when the government did that in 2009, it became stakeholders. It became a stakeholder in various businesses. It became part owner of various businesses, which meant that government was actually not just limiting itself to regulating the business world, but it was also owning some businesses. It was also controlling some businesses. It was also doing some businesses. So the point that I'm trying to make is, you would not be able to find purely free market economies or purely planned economies. It is just not possible for any economy to be either purely planned or purely free market economy. And that is why in this particular figure you find that there is no country which is being shown at the extreme left where you see pure planned economy, and there is no country which is again shown at the extreme right where you see the pure free market. The country which is to the leftmost is North Korea. Even it is not purely planned economy. It has some elements of a free market economy also. Likewise, United States and Japan, which can be considered to be free markets, free market economies, even there you find that there is a little bit of element of communist kind of economies or planned kind of economies or centrally planned kind of economies. Is this understood? So the first thing that now we have understood is that 100% pure planned economy or 100% pure free market is just not available, just not possible. However, what actually is seen in different countries, the economic system that you witness in different countries is a mix of pure planned economy and pure free market economy. If this mix leans towards the left, that is, it has more number of elements of a pure planned economy and less elements of a pure free market, you can call this some kind of a leftist economic system. While if it has more elements of pure free market, then you will call it some kind of a rightist economic system. And that is what has been shown here. Have a look at what has been shown here in this particular picture, right? And these kind of economies would be called mixed economies. Mixed economy would be those economies which will have almost equal presence of elements of pure planned economy and pure free market economy, right? Is this understood? And if a particular country is having a greater share of elements which are found in pure planned economy, it can be considered to be leaning towards the left, that is leftist leaning or leftist kind of economic system. Now the same thing has been shown here. You find that between France and Sweden, United States and Japan, capitalist leaning, this particular term has been shown here. What does this mean? This means that these countries lean towards the pure free market. They lean more towards the pure free market economic systems. The element of free market economy, they are much more dominant in these kind of economic systems than the elements of pure planned economy. And that is why we are saying capitalist leaning. Leaning means tending towards, tilted towards. So these economies are tilted towards capitalism. They cannot be 100% pure free market economy, but yes, they are tilting towards free market economy. They are tilting towards a capitalist kind of economy, and that is why the word which has been mentioned here is capitalist leaning. Again, if you look at China and Venezuela, they are tilting towards communism. They are tilting towards pure planned economy, and that is why the term which has been mentioned here is socialist leaning or communist leaning, right? Is this understood? So that is why this has been shown like this. So you don't see United States and Japan at the extreme right corner, because even they are not 100% pure free market economies. Likewise, you don't see North Korea at the extreme left corner, because it is again not 100% pure planned economy, and it has its own elements of free market as well, right? Now again, the economies which fall somewhere in the middle, they are called mixed economies, which will have almost same proportion of elements of pure planned economy and pure free economy, which is the case to an extent with India. Is this understood? So if you want to find out what kind of economic systems does North Korea have, and if you want to compare it with China, you can say that China is more capitalist as compared to North Korea, or it is less communist as compared to North Korea, while North Korea is more communist as compared to China. On the other hand, China is less capitalist when compared to France, or we can say it this way also, that China is more tilted towards communism when we compare it to France. France is less tilted towards communism when compared with China, but it is more tilted to free economy, free market economic systems when compared to China. But on the other hand, if you compare France and United States, you would say that France leans towards communism when compared to United States. It has greater proportion of elements of pure planned economy as compared to United States, while United States is a freer economic system than France. So this is how you interpret this particular figure, right? Now we have seen that 100% pure planned economy and 100% pure free market is just not possible. I've given you examples. For example, in America, though it is considered to be pure free market, here also there is an element of prioritizing societal interest. For example, there is a National Health Service which works in America, which provides subsidized medical care to people from the poor and the destitute sections of the society. Now this is one element of the communist economic systems, but it is still there in America. On the other hand, if you go to North Korea, you will find that articles like toys, the government does not limit the production. It does not control the distribution and consumption of articles like toys, though it can be considered to be a communist kind of economy. But even there, some articles are left for the private sector to decide as to how much of those articles the private sector wants to produce and how much of those articles the private sector wants to distribute and wants to sell to the customers. So 100% pure planned economies and 100% pure free market economies are just not possible. Now where does India lie on this continuum? See, India of 1950s was lying somewhere here, right? You can see it here, this yellow mark. So India was somewhere here. Now India was somewhere means India was leaning more towards communism. We were not a communist country, we were a mixed economy, but it was leaning more towards communism. However, specifically after 1990, after we went for the new industrial policy, after we went for opening up of our economy, globalization, after we went for liberalization and privatization, we have started moving towards the right. We are still a mixed economy, but we have moved a little more towards right, which means now we are a freer market economic system than we used to be in 1950. So there has been movement towards right. So we are basically moving towards the capitalist kind of economic system. Though we are still a mixed economic system, we are trying to move in that particular direction, right? And that is why you see that in the last 10-15 years, so many public sector units have been prioritized. Government has sold its stake in some of the public sector units which were earlier under the government control, which means we are moving towards right. We are leaving the space open for the private capital, for the private enterprises. So the learning from this particular diagram, this particular picture, is that a country may move either towards right or it may move either towards the left. It may become more communist. Its economic system can start having more elements of a pure planned economy. On the other hand, it can also start becoming more of a capitalist kind of economy with more and more elements of a free market. So a country's position on this particular continuum, this particular space between communism and pure competition, the position of a country may change. Like it has happened in India. India earlier used to be a little more leftist in its approach. It used to have more elements of a pure planned economy earlier, but that is not the case now. Earlier, how much of a textile, how many of the machines would be imported from some foreign country, that also was decided and regulated by the government. That was the case in 1970s and 80s, but that is not the case anymore. Now, if you have the market to cater to, you can always import machinery from the foreign countries. So India has now started moving India has now started having more elements of a free market economy, and this tells us that the country's position on this particular continuum is not static, it is dynamic, which means it may change from one year to the other. Is this understood? So friends, this now concludes our discussion on the three major type of economic systems that we have. The one was the pure planned economy. The second one was the pure free market economy. We had discussed them in the last session. However, we wanted to have a more detailed discussion on what is known as a mixed economic system, and that we have understood here. Now the discussion would move on to how India is a mixed economy and what all elements are there in India's economic system that qualify it as a mixed economy. So this will be taken up in the next